Book 265. Good morning, good morning. Welcome back to Morning Motivation with Matthew Daniels, and today I'm going to tell you guys about the wake-up call. That's right, the wake-up call. But what is Matthew Daniels talking about? A long time ago, in a land which has long since been buried beneath the sea, the governmental powers over the people grew increasingly more wicked until they lost all sense of morality and ethics. One of my ancestors, no less, lived in this land, and they have passed down directly to me from mouth to ear the details of how low their society descended into darkness. I was told that whenever a woman became pregnant, be she married or not, she was taken to a building and chained down to a bed. From there, she was fed and cared for, but she was not allowed to leave. The day in which she gave birth, the child was immediately snatched up by the nurses, who would take the child off to another building, and then the woman would be released. When the child would be taken to this other room, their entire lives became mapped out by the governmental powers. They were given drugs to influence the way in which they developed, and they were placed in groups based on what the people in power thought the society needed. Some children were set aside for the military and war. Some children were set aside to be those who slaved away in the mines. Some children were chosen to be doctors, some scientists, and some were even chosen to be the subjects of the scientists' various experiments. Once it was determined what the child would do in life, they were hauled off to the section of town where those who were like them lived and worked. Then, from sunup to sundown, they were groomed to work in the field which was chosen for them. One child, my ancestor, was chosen to be experimented on, but as he grew, he wanted in his heart to be a writer of books and a teller of stories. One day, he mentioned his desires to those who groomed him, and because of his desires, which were not what he was chosen to do, they tied him to a pole and beat him until he bled. He quickly learned to try and suppress his desires, but his natural urges to follow his heart were strong. One day, he was caught with several pieces of paper and a pen, which he had stolen from the scientists. When the scientists caught him, they beat him again, and they told him that he could not be what he wanted to be. He had to become what was determined at birth. Over the years, the child was beaten often, and his spirit was broken, and his desire to continue living left him completely. One day, after all joy was gone from his mind and body, the child tied a rope around his own neck, and he hung himself from a contraption attached to the wall. As the life left his body and everything around him went dark, he thought to himself that death was much better than the life he lived. Then, as soon as the life left his body, the child leapt up from his bed in a cold sweat. He was no longer a child, however, but a grown man. In the bed next to him was his wife, and he slowly realized that he had been dreaming the entire time. The dream felt so real to him though. The man thought about the cause of the dream, and he remembered that before he slept, he had yelled at his son for saying that he wanted to become a veterinarian in life, and he told his son that he would become a lawyer like him. In that moment, he realized that in truth, he was the one oppressing his own son like he had been oppressed in the dream, and he felt terrible for trying to force his child into a career that his son did not choose. Because of this, when his son woke up, he apologized to him, and he told him that he could become anything he wanted to be, and he promised to support him as he followed his heart. And so, the morning motivation of today is the wake-up call. Today, I want to remind you that everyone comes into this earth the exact same way, and everyone has the exact same right to choose their own path. As parents, we are supposed to nurture and prepare our children for this world, but we are not supposed to force them down a particular path. Allow your children to decide for themselves, or you might inadvertently rob them of all happiness and joy. Today, support your children with what they want to do with their lives, and always strive to do that which is good. And remember, you are awesome, you are amazing, you are wonderful, and you are great. And you are going to change the world. I just hope I'm still alive to see it, family. I'm out. Good morning. To order books in the Morning Motivation with Matthew Daniels book series, search Morning Motivation with Matthew Daniels on Amazon.com or visit www.dandyandbigherm.com.